Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we discuss Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade 7. I mean 1 minute at a time.
Oh.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Gerald Christopher Irrelevant Porter.
And today we're joined by a close personal friend of mine. And if you were at the Movies by Minutes convention or our live show in Chicago last year, she might have become a close personal friend of yours too. She's a former librarian. And if you're curious about her weird last name, she's also married to my brother. She's Rachel Mummert. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're in dire need of a librarian here, I think. So.
We're certainly not in more need of more Mummerts.
We're cheesy with Mummerts over here.
Yeah, it's getting a little thick in the room.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about minute 29, which begins with Indy mansplaining his dad's quest and ends with Indy once again reciting those legendary numbers that have symbolized this great quest in this wonderful movie all these many years, 3, 7, and 10.
So
Where were you the first time you heard 3, 7, and 10? When you first told your child, son, 3, 7, 10.
Well, when you guys were a kid, did you ever get sick and miss a week of school? And like when you come back, everybody is talking about polynomials, and you're just totally lost. And the teacher keeps saying, "Don't you get it?
Oh my God!
The tomb is somewhere in the library." And it's like, so I get the poly part, but what's the nomial?
Right.
It's like the FOIL system, 3, 7, and 10.
And then,
he
so strictly like points everything out, like 3, 3, 7. Okay, I don't get it though. 3, 7. Okay.
Where's the FOIL method?
Places.
The FOIL method. I mean, I feel like that right now. Was I erroneously looking for a book about a knight's tomb? This whole time?
I think you were erroneously looking for some meaning in this puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like you missed a week of class and you came back and everybody had a severe head trauma. Like it's just, and I'm not very negative. I love these movies, but this is just, I'm going to be honest. I just think this is stupid.
It is. It's hard to not say that it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I
Because it really
noticed
just doesn't make any sense.
when he's at the window, when he begins pointing, and he says 3, and he points at the 3. To me, it looks like he's pointing right at the 7. And then he points at the 7 again. So I'm like, wait a second.
Like he's daring you to make sense out of it.
Yeah.
See,
And
don't you
also-
get it? Don't be stupid. 3, 7.
Also, when he starts, he points at the 3 on the pillar, and then he like looks behind his shoulder, like, what are you looking for? Like,
Yeah.
the 3's on the
Yeah.
pillar in the window. So
Right.
And then he's like, don't you get it? And it's
Yeah.
like he got it 2 seconds before.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
love how he's so proud of himself, and now
I
he's
can't
just
believe
like, you
guys are
idiots.
3 seconds stupider than I am.
I don't.
And the entire audience is included in that too. Like, okay, Indy, I don't get it.
I kind of wish they would have made it like a 3-2-7, kind of like throwing us like a little Star Wars reference.
Oh, yeah.
instead of having
Nice.
it
see?
said.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a really badly missed opportunity. Or like 3, 8, 11 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
you're in
always
the name
hate-
Mummert with that.
How the X is not in the middle. It kind of throws like the whole, like the X just seems like it should be in the middle. Like the 7's kind of too,
Yeah.
I don't know the right word for it. It just seems like it would fit better with the bigger numbers on the outside, but that's just,
Well, and they don't
that's
match
just
up
my
because
anxiety.
yeah,
That's who you earn your name, Mummert.
yeah.
I love it.
But the numbers aren't in the same order on the stained glass or on the little paper or on in the
Pillars.
library itself.
Yeah.
Like they're just everybody
Yeah.
just randomly put these 3 numbers down.
Because like
I
the
would-
7's beside the 3 on the window and the 3 pillars beside the 7. So it's like, wait a second.
Is it possible this made perfect, like, kind of mystery movie clue following sense, like in an early draft, and then they had to like change some stuff, and like the things just stopped like making sense along the way or something? I don't know. It's just weird that they would have. I mean, again, they just breezed through it really quickly, so it kind of doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. They seem excited about what they're doing, and like maybe it makes sense to them. But like, yeah, it's just strange that it makes zero sense.
It was just maybe it was one of those. They're like, "Don't you guys get it? Chatter, Rom." Like it's just, it's one guy. It would have just worked, you know.
Yeah, exactly,
Chatter, lol.
But
and
how would
Lola
this
Rom
have
were one
worked?
guy.
Like, what? I don't know how they would have changed this so that it would work.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
This-
there's like
I
a
mean-
mechanism somewhere, like, oh, you push the 3 into the column was
Yeah.
put here after
Yeah.
the thing. I don't know.
This whole,
Well, as a former librarian, Rachel, would this have flown? Like, do you let people come into the library and start talking like this, like pointing out?
Yelling out numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, we probably would have shushed them by then. You know?
start yelling out numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look
Go to
down
the
my.
study section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vic, you need to take it to the lobby. So.
This this whole scene makes the Da Vinci Code look like a James Joyce novel.
Right.
It's just
Or at least like a Arthur Conan Doyle novel or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
Yeah.
something with some legs.
Yeah.
I
stand
and
on.
you know me and movies, I'm really stupid. So I'm thinking that I'm the dumb one who missed a week of school. But you guys
Yeah.
are making me feel a lot better here. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I'm
no,
it's
we're
not-
all-
I'm not-
We're all befuddled.
I'm not saying this is negates your missing a week of school dumb thing, but yeah, we don't get the puzzle.
I want to, like, we're in the 3rd movie, and this is the first time, like, Pete actually called out Indiana Jones movie as being stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something in an Indiana Jones
something
movie is
in an
stupid.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Sure. But he's.
I'm just thinking. I had a teacher in I think 5th grade who were doing some sort of like unit on like psychology or something, and she had this one kid, Alex Stant, leave the room, and when he was gone, she's like, "Okay, I'm going to point to the rectangle on the board," and everybody say, "Oh yeah, that's the triangle." So like something really basic like that. And then when Alex Stant came back in, he's like, "Oh yeah, there's the rectangle." I'm like, "No, it's a triangle, dummy. What's the matter? Don't you get it?" And that's exactly how I feel like watching this scene. I'm like, "Oh boy," like you said, Jerry. Like, "Oh, I easily missed something." Everyone seems really convinced that something very profound is happening here.
Well, and I like that the Indy like has to make sure he remembers the 7. He's like 7, 7, 7. Like he's worried that the 7's gonna fall out of his head or something.
Well, what rhymes with 7?
I mean, he just saw that, like, as you said, Tommy, 3 seconds prior. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really weird is he sees them so quickly, like they have to look around for the 10, but the 3 and the 7, it's almost like
Yeah.
he sees it before, you know?
But they don't mean anything.
No.
Like the 3 and the
I
7.
know.
Well, why did
That-
unless there are other treasures behind the 3 and the 7?
That's why I always wondered. I'm like, what is the significance? Like, why those numbers? Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
one that matters is
So-
the X. Like, is the
The-
3 and the
Yeah.
7
X.
just like, oh, you're close, you're getting warm. You're
Yeah.
getting there. Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you're in a library. You might as well just go to like the reference desk and be like, hey, do you have any, knights buried here in the library?
Can I look?
Yeah.
I wanna look on- yeah.
Can I look up the number X? Like Roman
the
numeral
Dewey
X? Yeah,
Decimal
the letter.
Oh, you know what?
You
You
know.
know what you should look it up in?
What?
The Il Duce decimal system.
Hey,
Ah,
nice.
is there an X somewhere in this library? Whenever we come across something like this, I just go straight to Yahweh Rumpus. It's just you're like,
What's he doing here? He's not. He's
well,
confused as the rest of
but
us.
his son is involved with the Holy Grail. I mean, it's Jesus and all that stuff. I that's the only thing I could come up with here.
So is the X a cross? Like, is a representative of a cross?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a resounding yes.
yeah. I think it's just like there's probably some huge elaborate story that we're just missing, but because Yahweh comes in and he kind of guides Indy's eyes a little bit here, we get glossed over the whole thing. There probably was a whole nother 2 or 3 week long quest to see what the 3 means and the 7 means. This is all throughout Venice, and they probably had to go to Constantinople and come back and the whole thing, but because Yahweh just kind of snuck in, right? I mean, isn't Indy's sort of the chosen one here? I mean, the Grail and Galahad and that whole thing. That's the only thing I come up with. Yahweh's like, I'll just make it easy on the little guy.
We should point out that Indy's being a massive Johnny Says What He Sees here. Like throughout the entire scene. It's like, three. That's a 7. I see a 7.
I'm gonna say that line. Don't you get it? That's a very un-Indy line.
It is. It's a very 1989 movie line. It seems like, but it's not a very Indiana Jones line.
Like they could have just said the line after, like, the whatever it is. No, the tomb is within the library.
Yeah.
He didn't have to, like, don't you get it? That's a strange line.
It is.
Yeah.
He comes off really obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I was looking in a long time ago. I got a book called The Lost Journal of Indiana Jones. And it kind of just chronicles it's kind of like his Grail diary of sorts through all the movies. And it has a few pieces of information on, like, the crosses, like the ones that the brother of the cruciform sword have.
Uh-huh.
And it has that, like, some portions of the cross, have to do with, like, the crucifixion itself and, like, the measure of, like, good versus evil, like the very bottom, because there's usually, like, 3 sections. And, like, the third bottom section usually has to do with the good versus evil portion of it. And balancing that out. And one of the drawings in here has that the cross itself kind of mimics what the actual, like, what the Grail looks like. So.
Oh, weird.
Well, that's the first time we've come up with anyone's mentioned the cruciform sword, and that kind of is, I think, a fascinating descriptor.
Yeah.
Because it's not a sword that looks like a cross. It's not a cross that looks like a sword. It's a sword that's shaped like a cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I get a little caught up on, these knights brothers embarked on the first crusade. And you're like, okay, so 1095. And then, but these pillars are from the fourth crusade, which is 100 years later. So am I just supposed to not really know that and not really be paying attention and going 3, 7? Is that what's or is there a story there? Like they were in
they would have, the guys from the fourth crusade, and I think we'll see in a couple minutes from the fifth crusade, would have come back before these knights would have, though, since they came back 150 years later.
Right.
All these other crusades would have already been over. So they come back and they're like, "Oh, I see you brought these pillars. I'm going to carve something on them."
Is that what it is?
Okay.
I was wondering. I was going to see what kind of weird ass Pete thing are you going to come up with?
It's not that weird.
No,
because
it's not.
There's no there. Like there's just nothing to this.
And then they put in the stained glass window after that, even to like reinforce the 3 and the 7 or something.
Yeah, who? Maybe those guys like played the stock market for the long haul and they make all this money and then he buys a stained glass window with that picture on it. I don't know.
I buy it.
Even in the background of that stained glass window, behind the numbers, it looks like, if you look closely, I didn't notice it until I was watching the minute yesterday, that it looks like they have the Grail tablet inscription behind the numbers. So.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but
that would really be funny.
How many copies of this thing are there? It's a stone, it's a shield, it's a stained glass window.
Well, so
keychain.
Who I feel like now I'm in the front of the classroom with the polynomials. Who set this up? Is it that so we're jumping ahead, but so the knight comes back 150 years later. He goes to France. He talks to Franciscan friar, and he gives the Franciscan friar the story. The friar writes it down in the illuminated manuscript in the vernacular, and
what his father David pointed out, that's weird too, because the Franciscan friar's like the Johnny come lately.
Right. And then the knight goes to Venice just for the hell of it. Like maybe he's on vacay. And
just for the halibut.
Just for that. Hey. And so then he walks into this to this church, and he's like, "Oh, hey, y'all from the Fourth Crusade. You guys really cleaned up." You know what I mean? I heard about this. And he's like, "I'm glad you guys brought the pillar because I happen to have the Holy Grail with me." So we need to commission a stained glass window.
Well, maybe that's why he put the window up. Is he's like, well, I don't actually have it on me, but I mean, I got it. And so this was his way of trying to prove it.
And then he's like, you know what? I really like it here in Venice. I think I'd like to be buried here, right here.
Sewer.
Yeah, right,
right
here. Is that? I mean, is he the guy who set up this whole little contraption? The knight who
I
was
honestly don't
buried
know.
here?
Is it him or
Unless-
was it the friar who wrote the book? Like when Donovan refers to the markers like in the friar's book, like as I'm saying it, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like markers, whatever. It almost sounds like it's the friar's thing that like he set that up, but that doesn't make sense either.
It's
don't know.
first, outside, inside, last. Foil. Or I mean, I'm thinking of like the night at the end of the movie. I haven't even watched the full movie, but there's a night at the end of it. Like, did he leave the Holy Grail there and then come back and set this whole thing up? Because who did it?
Yeah. I wish I could help you. I don't know.
And so we know two guys, there were three brothers. One stayed and just got really old.
Right.
The second
Yeah.
one, the two left, and one of the guys that left apparently died in Turkey. He died before France, and he left a marker in Turkey, so I'm assuming he was buried there. And then the third guy made it to France and then backtracked to Venice and died.
Now, what? Hang on.
So it was,
yeah.
oh wait, okay. So
yeah.
the guy who died in Turkey, did he have that's where the stone came from?
Well, that's Donovan said
Donovan
that's
has?
where the first marker came from. He said it came from north of Ankara.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe the two brothers who left each had a. It's like you said,
they're
Jared.
each
It's like I'll make my marker out of straw. I'll make my marker out of brick. But like they each, I guess, were like bringing to the world the news of where the Holy Grail was, which they want hidden.
And why
away. I
not
don't know.
just tell everybody? Why not just
Yeah.
Like, was it like an R2D2 C3PO thing where they get stuck like is somewhere around like Ankara?
That was much too rocky.
Yeah, that way it's much too rocky. You'll be like rusted in a day or whatever he said. And so they get in a fight,
Maybe.
and then so he's like, they're like,
Breaks the stone over his knee.
yeah, they're like
anger.
pulling on the stone. Like when they started, they're pulling on the stone and they rip it in half. And but like when they started and they left, were they originally like, you know what? We're going to go and bring this tablet to the world, you and me. And we're going to leave, the youngest Billy Goat Gruff back.
But that doesn't make any sense to me either, because
How so?
right, you've got a who's who of Christendom in Jerusalem and in all over the Middle East right now, because you've got the people from the Crusade and they just set up kingdoms and they stayed there. So basically, like all this royalties there, you've got all these people from the church there. So if you're going to share it with everybody, just tell everybody within like a 10-mile radius of the temple.
Yeah.
And I mean,
That makes a lot of sense.
did the knights split up on purpose, or did they get in an argument?
They fight each
Yeah,
other.
did they fight each other, or they were like, I know, it'd be really good. Let's break this stone, and then if we run into brigands, they won't be able to read it if they only get half of it.
Oh, maybe it was a locket.
We're brothers forever, dude. As long as I have this half of the locket.
And the one guy gets back to France. It's like, hey, your brother didn't make it. And he's like, oh, my God.
Stop it.
The last thing I said to him was...
So could these knights have been the same? Did they stop by Hogwarts? Were they the three brothers in Harry Potter as well?
Oh, probably. It makes as much sense as anything else.
Yeah, it does.
And we don't know why. We don't know why Donovan thinks that the tomb is in Venice, Italy, and we don't know why the knight returned to Venice, Italy, after he. Well, let me
honestly
wait.
forget-
Can I throw this
No,
out there
go
for
ahead.
the hell of it?
Yeah.
I'm probably way off, but what if the knight that didn't make it is this knight in Venice, Italy, and the knight who did make it went to France he talked to the Franciscan friar, and then he went to the mountainous region north of Ankara.
Well, maybe
I don't know.
That area north of Ankara was part of the Seljuk Sultanate, so maybe he was trying to get back to his brother in the Grail Temple, and he got captured by Muslims, and then he got taken up there. That doesn't really make sense either, because why would he have the stone?
Oh my
man.
God! I mean, I understood Shishak more than this.
Yeah,
Really? That was pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
yeah.
It's like burglary and offenses to God and Bob's your uncle, and there you go.
Yeah, but it had
Souls.
puzzles that made sense too.
Yeah. I love that movie.
I think that's the thing I miss
That's so
most
good.
about Marcus too, is just him in that movie explaining the wrath of God. I miss
Yeah.
that Marcus.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're keeping
Yeah.
a close eye on Marcus.
We are.
Yeah.
He hasn't fallen apart yet.
We
He's
we
all
have
right.
a term for those precious moments called Arcus. when Marcus is speaking, about something very solemn, or the Ark.
that a band?
Yeah, Arcus.
Isn't there some weird like heavy metal band named Arcus or something?
I'm sure there is. Marcus
Was it a
Arcus.
video game? Yeah.
Hey, so Elsa looks like she's fake looking around for the 10.
Yeah, she does.
Is that
This
me?
part drives
Is a
me
10 on a
nuts.
book?
Well, he specifically says in the beginning of the minute he wasn't looking for a book about the tomb. He was looking for the tomb itself. So what do? Let's go look in all the book stacks and look at the books. And
Go look at the book.
Try and find a book.
Yeah, yeah.
Did
We're
I
looking for the book How to Find a Tomb in the Library.
It's just
did I
like-
miss something? Was there something in this movie about trying to find a book?
I don't think so.
They get
No
married.
I know
one. No.
what
Is
you're
this
saying,
the,
though.
yeah?
Yeah,
Is this the first time he mentions looking for a knight's book?
I guess the assumption is that he's in the library studying, so he's trying to find, he's trying to research all this stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so, no, he wasn't looking for a book about the tomb. He was trying to find the tomb.
But I like,
Yeah.
because right after he says that, Elsa just gives him a completely blank look, and I like the idea that Elsa and Brody already knew that.
Yeah.
They're like, and when Indy says it, they're like, yeah.
You're right. Well, you are a good archaeologist. Wow. You're so handsome.
I guess.
Speaking of handsome, we get a shout out to our friend Sean German.
Oh, what do you mean?
If you look at the stacks of books, or the shelves there, and they list categories of what books you can find.
right.
One of them is arte mimica, which is Italian
Oh my
for
God.
mime.
Oh wow.
That's funny.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm just putting that together, Tommy. You're saying it was a book because because he's
in
in the
libraries, they have
library. That's why
books.
they thought he was looking for a book. That never
Yeah.
occurred to me.
Well,
It doesn't have time to occur. to
Yeah.
you.
What did
It's
Elsa say
like- yeah.
when she said he was as giddy as a schoolboy? Did she say something about him looking for a book?
Well, she said the last time she saw him, they were in the library, and he sent her to the stacks to look for some maps or
Yeah,
something.
an ancient
And she
map
came
of
back
the
and he was
city.
gone.
It's an ancient,
An ancient,
map
an
of the
ancient
city.
plan of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the image of a guy, hunkered down in the library trying to find
Okay.
information or something.
And she says he
guess.
left that paper with the Roman numerals. So I guess.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
if I saw that, I would think, oh, maybe this is like some kind of a code for where the book is. Like I would actually think it was a
Yeah.
book.
Isn't the Dewey Decimal System in Venice all Roman numerals anyway?
Yeah. That's
A
right.
series of them.
So has no one in the last 800 years seen the 3 and the 7 on the windows and the pillars?
And their minds are just blown.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's 2 3s and 2 7s.
Oh, I must be blind.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
saying,
don't get it, don't I?
it's 8 centuries.
Yeah. Well, it's 8 centuries where, like, there's never been a plumber or a guy doing renovations that happened to look under the floor.
Yeah. Remarbling the floor or anything.
Yeah.
Well, there's your problem right there. You got catacombs under the place. That's going to cost you.
You know what? I still love Indiana Jones.
Of course you do.
I feel like
We're having fun.
Such
Chad.
a sucker. Such a chump.
I like the sublime spiral staircase suite we get here as Indy climbs the stairs.
Oh yeah.
That's
That
a
is
horrible
nice.
choice for a library. I'm just saying. They're very loud.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Oh,
point.
really?
Yeah.
Totally.
Also, I would think if you have your arms filled with books, they'd be kind of
That would be
treacherous coming
horrible.
down or something.
They would be.
Yeah. Wow.
But I would
That'd be
imagine,
such a liability.
maybe you can illuminate this, Rachel. But I would imagine with the library, you do want to have an inviting atmosphere. You want people to come in, you know. You want people to come in, and the spiral staircase does sort of lend itself to, hey, this is a nice place to be. You know, to read.
It is
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like that always reminds me of Different Strokes. They had a spiral staircase in the kitchen in the back.
Oh my
I thought that was so cool.
This layout
in our house.
is confusing me though, because it seems like they came in from right behind the spiral staircase.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it would be weird that your entrance or exit wouldn't be where the librarian is to see if you've checked out your
Yeah.
books.
But I'm assuming that's because
yeah.
Elsa kind of has some friends on the inside. Like she probably came in the back door. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
They came in through
Yeah.
the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Exactly. A question for you, Rachel. Can you tell me what is the best thing about working in a library, and the worst?
Oh, geez. I think.
What was the most fun thing?
I think just getting, just seeing all the different books that come through, or being like, oh, hey, you kind of get, I wouldn't say first dibs, but you just kind of like, oh, hey, this looks interesting. And just being able to recommend books to people. You know, if they're looking for...
you can really influence people.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you know, hey, check this out, and the person does.
And if they're like, oh, hey, you know, I read this kind of book or author, and I'm really kind of looking for something else, it's like, oh, hey, I know something right up your alley. So that was one of my favorite things. I still do that with friends. Like,
Yeah.
That's cool. You're like a human Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, you might also be interested in
Yeah.
the screen.
Yeah.
That would be really rewarding.
yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
like, hey, if I
yeah.
can make a living out of it, I would. No, I should. Maybe
And
I'll
then,
make
and
it.
what was
Book flicks.
one of the hardest things or the worst things?
Oh,
Shh.
I don't know. It's just
Having to do that. Shh.
I actually never did that. I got shushed,
Oh.
but you know,
Oh, really? Who shushes the librarian? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know.
people in
Indeed.
other departments. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta
Okay.
be.
Do they give you that chain to put around your glasses on the first day of work?
No, you have to earn those. Every like 10
There's a
people that you
ceremony.
shush.
Can you talk to us a little bit about stamps and stamping, stamping books?
Oh, I stamped some books when I worked at the college library, so mine
Sure.
wasn't that wasn't that satisfying though. It was just yeah, we had to erase a lot out of books. People like to write in them, but
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Wow.
Was it usually like profanities and stuff, or was it usually just people taking notes
yeah,
in the book?
usually just notes and underlining. So
Okay.
I would always I would get a book out of the library and it had like, it wasn't even like obnoxious or anything. It was actually a note to the next person who was reading the book, like pointing stuff out or something. Like this model car doesn't have a backseat. This is impossible or something like that.
Oh, that's
I thought that
cool.
was kind
Actually,
of funny and
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
It's like the internet before the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
actually,
Yeah.
we'd also have people try and like take things, like books,
Oh,
movies,
that's not cool.
and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we give these to you for free for a certain amount of time. Like, you don't have to steal.
Kind of low life steals from a library.
what was the latest overdue library book you ever got back?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I don't remember. Because usually they were just like lost, or you know, by that time they just had to pay for
Oh,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Did you guys ever do one of those amnesties?
Yeah, we would have like bring in like canned goods. We can, you know, reduce your fines That was usually.
nice.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that's like the plenary indulgences
Yeah.
for the library. I love that.
Yeah.
They just
I once sent my parents to return a super, super late book that my son had out, and they just didn't charge them because they were just like a nice, cute
Yeah.
older couple. They're like, oh, it's all right.
came back missing teeth.
Yeah, right. We returned the book, son.
You don't know what we went through for you.
It was worth it.
Hey, something big is coming over the wires.
Whoa.
Yeah,
What are you talking
a
about?
good question. It's a good question
Whoa.
from
What?
Wait, is this a
Boop-a-doop. This just in from Professor Christy Porter. Can anyone tell me why 3, 7, or 10? 3, 7, and 10 on the pillars clearly indicates the stations of the cross.
Oh.
Three is Jesus falls for the first time. 7 is Jesus falls for the second time. And 10 is Jesus is stripped of his clothes, and I don't know how to triangulate this. Maybe you guys can help.
Oh, boy. He tosses that at us at the
Yeah, I know. At the last second.
Wow.
Well, I like that. The Stations of the Cross. That would be, I mean, you would see that on the pillars, Roman
Yeah, that is
numerals.
right up their alley.
Right up
That's kind
their
of
alley. I
bread and
like
butter.
that. It is. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe something to keep in mind. Maybe when they find 10, the night is exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The secret
Although
is
doesn't-
exposed.
Not to skip ahead, but doesn't Elsa take off her coat at some, like her jacket while she's down there or
That's
something?
pretty good.
Like
Yeah.
she's
Yes.
disrobing.
Oh,
she's,
yeah.
That's
maybe,
where
I
we're
don't know.
going. That's right.
Yeah.
And she
crack
says,
it.
lower me down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're really.
She says, Indy, you're horrible. You know not what you do. You're a terrible archaeologist.
We're reaching.
Yeah. Not as much as the filmmakers were.
Yeah, really. I reached a little more.
Well, Rachel, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
having
you.
me.
And listeners, if you like puzzles that are more complicated than simply looking for a big X in a room, try finding our t-shirts on TeePublic. It might be harder than you think.
Yeah, look up 3 on the internet, and then look up 7.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I'm not going to give you the whole thing. You just got it's a quest.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
Quest for a shirt.
go to Byzantium and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes.
On some column somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Or if you want to go to Damietta, you can leave us a 5 crescent review. We'll be happy with that too.
There you go.
Yep. And everybody else, or even if you do leave a review, please join us back here tomorrow for minute 30 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Don't you get it?
Jones.
Jones.
I'm in the library.
Jones. I don't get it.
Don't call me Junior.
I need a pass for the bathroom.